Good to have your company. Welcome to Look North on the programme tonight. School leaders in our region warn of catastrophic measures unless energy bills are vastly reduced.
If school budgets aren't going to change and the cost of energy is going to go up, then money is going to come out of staffing. There is no other way.
And I'm in Westminster, where Liz Truss had her first day as Prime Minister. The big question, what is she going to do about energy costs?
Also tonight, the magic of the moor. How the peat in the hills above Marsden is stopping the equivalent of carbon dioxide emissions from 98 million gallons of diesel entering the atmosphere. The bikes are back. Britain's biggest cycle race returns to Yorkshire at last after a 13-year absence. And kicking his way to the top, the South Yorkshire fighter inspiring young people around the world.
Doncaster is a mad town. Like, I've been here for 18 years. I travel a lot, but it's like I'm always wanting to come back home. So this is home, Doncaster.
Scattered showers and thunderstorms in the forecast over the next 48 hours. But what about the weekend? Join me for the very latest.
Thanks for joining us. Many pupils across our region are now back in the classroom. You may remember last night on Look North, we told you about uniforms being provided by some schools to take the burden off parents. Well, tonight it's head teachers in our region that say they're facing a catastrophic winter if the new government fails to cut energy bills. They say the choices will be stark: heating or teaching. And some say they're already not replacing staff who are leaving. Take a look at this, because a survey of 121 school head teachers by the Times Education Supplement revealed this: 77% said they may restrict heating. 29% say they might have to consider cutting the number of staff, while 53% said they might have to pause recruitment. The Department for Education said school budgets would rise by £7 billion by 2024 to 25, and they'd receive an increase in funding equating to 7% per pupil this academic year. But that's little consolation for school leaders right now. Sabia Pervez has this.
Powering up for the day, Mungo Shepherd is ready to welcome his primary school students back for the new academic year. But switching on the lights is now more expensive than it's ever been, as the cost of living soars. His school community here in Halifax rely on him more than ever.
Children are coming to school from households that might be struggling to, pay bills, afford food and afford heating. Now that's going to get an awful lot worse. So we've got a responsibility for those children to look after them. What we can't do is push any of those children or families away. The costs therefore are transferred onto schools. So the budget that we'd set is no longer really worth the paper that it was written on.
How much pressure are you under?
If school budgets aren't going to change and the cost of energy is going to go up, then money is going to come out of staffing. There is no other way.
So as the energy bills continue to rise, there's an increasing concern that although it'll be a financial load carried by adults, young people will feel the consequences too.
We know from our studies in Bourne and Bradford how these sort of things affect children's mental health as well. So, for example, even before this crisis has started, we know a quarter of children in Bradford are worried about the amount of money their families are earning. So this affects them. And we can see, this is going to play out over the winter, where the majority of children are going to be worried about the family finances.
The Department for Education says schools' budgets would rise by £7 billion by 2024 and 2025. They also say schools' budgets will increase per student by 7% in this academic year of 2022 and 2023, which they say is broadly affordable for schools. But campaigners argue this isn't enough.
Those in power need to come into schools and listen to the concerns of school leaders. That's what's been lacking. Schools are facing a tsunami of different cuts. I think the situation at the moment is catastrophic, actually, and things are going to get worse. In the past, schools have really struggled through the funding crisis, and now this is just the tip of the iceberg.
For now, head teachers like Mungo walk towards the future in darkness, unaware and clinging to hope that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. Sabir Pervez, BBC Look North.
So just the start of a fresh term, but the prospects of either cancelling trips or some lessons is real, isn't it, for many schools? I spoke to Pepe Diasio earlier. He's the president of the Association of Schools and College Leaders, but he is also the head of Wales High School in Rotherham. He told me that it is going to be a really difficult term ahead.
It's certainly going to be one of the toughest winters that we faced for many years, and that's on the back of what has been a global pandemic and some of the hardest times that our families and schools have faced in a generation. Definitely, Amy, yes.
Just describe some of the pressure and how that does compare to what you say has been a really difficult time already for schools.
So we've got what I would call a funding crisis ahead of us. There are four key main issues that are biting head teachers hard at the moment. There's the massive increase in energy costs that I'm sure many families are feeling right now and are certainly worried about in the coming months. There's also the increase in funding that we need to pay for our teachers to receive their additional salaries, which are justified and they're certainly worthy of them. And many of those are receiving amounts of money that are just unfunded within our budgets. And then on top of that, we have additional funds that are needed to support our students with special educational needs. And then finally, we're also looking for extra money to pay for the additional costs that we're facing for food at the moment, with the increase in the cost of school dinners and making sure that we provide appropriate meals for our children each and every day. And there are 2,000 students at Wales High School, and we need to make sure that we can give them a proper meal during the morning break as well as afternoon as well.
OK, so lots of issues you've mentioned there. The Department of Education said school budgets will go up by $7 billion in 2024 to 25. Are you saying that this doesn't scratch the surface?
Well, what I would say to you is that the IFS, the Independent Fiscal Studies Group, have done research on this. And what they are saying is that school budgets are 3% less than they were in 2010. They're an independent group and they've analysed the figures. So we could listen to the government, you could listen to me, but I would listen to the independent specialists if I was you.
And you, as a head teacher, I know you're paying an extra £3,000 every month alone just to pay for the extra energy bills. What sort of intervention are you hoping to get from our new Prime Minister?
I mean, what we'd really like to see is some support about making sure that that doesn't go up any higher than it already is. We'd like some certainty so that our plans can be put in place to make sure we know where we're going and what we're doing. What we're looking at is making sure that we don't incur any more costs and at least help protect our families as well that are looking at where they're going to get the next penny from to make sure that there aren't additional costs on them either.
Pepe, are you already seeing the pressure on families? I mean, school's only been open a few days already, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what we've tried to do is alleviate those wherever we can, Amy. So we've made sure that we rationalise our uniform policy. So we've reduced the costs that are incurred there for families. And we're also seeing an increase in take-up to our breakfast club. Young people are coming into school earlier and are staying certainly during the holidays as well. Our holiday programme was incredibly well supported, and we've seen many families take advantage of what have been free meals during the holiday period as well.
In a nutshell, what is the winter period looking like right now?
Well, I hate being negative, but it's looking very bleak. And I think what we're all hoping for is a really positive and ambitious message tomorrow from our new Prime Minister, and one that we can all gather around and hope that we can get through what will be a very tough winter, I'm sure.
Pepe Diasio, thank you for your time. So an announcement is expected tomorrow from our new Prime Minister about tackling the energy and the cost of living crisis. The detail of that is yet to be firmed up. She faced her first PMQs in Westminster today. Our political editor, James Vincent, is there for us now. James, we just heard there from a head teacher, it's a real difficult decision between, teaching and heating. Are our MPs really pushing for this to be top of the agenda, the cost of living crisis?
Yeah, we all know that the cheering and jeering of Prime Minister's Question Time. Liz Truss faced that for the first time today. There were plenty of questions, but there is, as you say, only one main question. What is Liz Truss going to do about the energy crisis? It's not just MPs asking that, of course. It's people who are looking at their energy bills and head teachers. Those two head teachers we've spoken to tonight in Halifax and Rotherham, looking at their bills rising as well. They want to know the answer. We will get an answer tomorrow when Liz Truss stands up up in the House of Commons and tells us what she's going to do about the energy crisis. Whether it will be the answer will be for people to decide. I think what's really interesting about this is we've heard from MPs today about what they want. We'll find out what they get tomorrow. I bumped into one of our MPs today. He says it needs to be big because it's got to be big, whatever they announce tomorrow. I spoke to Stuart Andrew earlier today as well, and what's really interesting is I think the MPs have really had it brought home to them while they've been away from this place over the summer, talking to constituents about how serious this crisis is. This is what he told me.
Our constituents are worried, I would say actually scared and terrified about the looming cost of energy bills and the cost of living crisis. So focusing on that has to be our attention, and she needs our support to tackle that. I want to see if this package that is being rumoured, if that comes to fruition, I'll be very pleased because I think it needs to be real help for my constituents.
An MP sort of saying that his constituents are terrified, and in terms of what is announced tomorrow, we do know one big difference between what the Conservatives want to do and what Labour wants to do. Labour want there to be a windfall tax, so the cap or the freeze on energy prices is paid for by those companies that provide gas and electricity. Liz Truss today has said that she won't do that. She says that stops people wanting to do business. So there is a dividing line between the two parties on this now, and I put our specific points that we heard from Halifax earlier in the programme to Labour's spokesperson for schools and further education, Toby Perkins.
The level of increases in our gas and electric bills that people are talking about for small businesses and for organisations like schools and colleges are just existential threat. And so tomorrow the government are making their announcements on energy, and they absolutely have to do something about that. But the key question is also going to be who pays for it, and that's where we've seen the big difference today.
OK, so we'll see what happens tomorrow on that. Moving on though, James, there was also a commitment to help Doncaster Sheffield Airport today, wasn't there?
Yeah, this is a really, really interesting one, Amy, because there was a commitment, and you'll hear it in a second. Liz Truss used the word protect when she was talking about Doncaster Sheffield Airport. But it's really hard to know what the government can actually do, short of buying the airport and trying to get somebody to run it. It's a private business, and private business runs that site at the moment. But of course, we've been following this story over the last few months, and it did come to a question in Prime Minister's Questions today from the Don Valley MP Nick Fletcher.
Will she use the full weight of her office on these decision makers so as to keep our Doncaster Sheffield Airport open?
Yeah! Well, regional airports, including the Doncaster Sheffield Airport, are a vital part of our economic growth. And what I will make sure is that the new Transport Secretary is immediately onto this issue. I know she is, I can tell. Look, she's already contacting the people in Doncaster and Sheffield to make sure we do protect this airport and we protect that vital infrastructure and connectivity that helps our economy grow.
Before we let you go, James, a Minister for the North, are we getting one?
Well, we were promised one by Liz Truss. We haven't got one yet. We will wait and see. We've just had one appointment. Alex Shelbrooke is going to be Minister of Defence. And spare a thought for Brendan Clark-Smith, the Bassetlaw MP. He's waiting for a phone call to find out if he's keeping his job. But also, his wife is due to give birth tomorrow. So 2 important phone calls he needs to take.
James, thank you. OK, let's bring you some more news from across the region now. The family of a missing pensioner from Harrogate are appealing to the public for help in finding her. It's 11 days now since 73-year-old Judith Holliday was last seen after leaving her care home in the town. It's thought she caught a bus out of Harrogate and flagged down a motorist who took her to the village of North Ricton. She has dementia and doesn't have medication with her.
We are in tatters. We are desperately worried about Judith's welfare, and we just want to know where she is and that she's safe and get her returned home to all of her family as soon as possible.
She is vulnerable, just down to her age and the medical conditions that she's got. I've got concerns that financially we don't know what capability she has. She has no means of contact that we know of. And obviously in the weather or inclement weather that might be coming in, and the risk that she might have hurt herself.
If you do have any information at all, please do get in touch with the relevant authorities. Sheffield Council has spent more than £150,000 on investigations, legal fees and staffing costs relating to its chief executive's involvement in the so-called political scandal Partygate. Now, the full cost of the Kate Josephs investigation was brought to light through a Freedom of Information request by the local Democracy Reporting Service. The council boss admitted in January to hosting a rule-breaking leaving party in the Cabinet Office to mark the end of her time as head of the government's COVID task force before joining the local authority. Take a look at those gorgeous images. It's just stunning, isn't it? A study of the peat in the moors above Marsden in West Yorkshire has revealed just how much carbon dioxide they prevent from entering the atmosphere. Now, have a listen to this, because researchers from the University of Leeds carried out in-depth studies on the moorland which revealed that they can hold up to 300,000 tonnes of carbon. That is equivalent of the emissions from up to 98 million gallons of diesel. Isn't that incredible? It's a vital study in the battle against climate change. Phil Bodmer has this.
They say the moorland above Marsden is as important to Yorkshire as the rainforests are to Central and South America. For under these broad acres lie hundreds of thousands of tonnes of carbon, captured over many thousands of years, thanks in part to a very special plant. Well, this is sphagnum moss. It can hold up to 10 times its own weight in water and helps slow the rate of decay of organic matter, thus helping the carbon to accumulate.
The peat began to form and literally oozed out across the landscape.
National Trust volunteers working with the University of Leeds have spent months surveying the moors. Some 350 hectares have so far been measured. By capturing carbon, the moor helps in the battle against climate change and helps keep our air cleaner.
For the first time, we can at least put an estimate about the carbon stored on the Wessenden moors, and that is probably between 200,000 and 300,000 tonnes of carbon. Really quite a staggering figure.
The moorland here contains large quantities of peat, which forms when dead vegetation accumulates rather than decays.
The base of the peat, you can see the mineral sand at the bottom there.
Due to a balance of high rainfall and low evaporation, it makes this landscape an ideal carbon store.
We all know how important carbon is in terms of climate change, and we don't want this carbon releasing into the atmosphere. We want it to stay where it is and, if possible, build more into it. And through good management of the site and hopefully re-wetting parts of this moor, we will allow it to become a successful carbon sink for the future.
These initial results about the carbon capturing potential of the moorland should help ecologists better understand the landscape and how to protect it for the future. The beauty of this place above the ground is clear to see, but it's what lies hidden below the surface that's equally as important. Phil Bodmer, BBC Look North, on the moors above Marsden.
It looks gorgeous, doesn't it, above the moors there? Bike races, we've not had a big one like this here for a while, have we? The Tour of Britain has returned to North Yorkshire for the first time in 13 years. Stage 4 of the Britain's flagship men's road cycling event began in Redcar, wound its way through the North York moors and finished in Helmsley, gorgeous village. Home first Jake Scott was hoping to hang onto the King of the Mountain jersey. Paul Ogden, who else was there watching the action?
Helmsley's Duncombe Park in the North York Moors National Park is certainly used to hosting visitors on a lovely autumn day. But not so many dressed in lycra, and whether professional or amateur, so many so hooked on bicycles and racing them. Today, North Yorkshire's bike nuts had a field day as the Tour of Britain pedalled its way through their region again at last, for the first time in 13 years.
We were just saying as we walked up here, this is the first time in 2.5 years that we've attended such a gathering, and it's been very nice, and the sun's come out now.
Not everybody can travel abroad to go and see it, so being on your doorstep or in just not so far away is really brilliant.
Rumour has it that God rode a bicycle, and this was his county,
So probably that's why we have more cycling here.
As for the race itself, a gallery for North Yorkshire cyclotourism. After whizzing through Whitby, Robin Hood's Bay was Tom Pidcock's launchpad. But carefully marked today, as later on the Carlton Bank climb, Pidcock ended up pipped on the line, frustrated into second place by the Spaniard Gonzalo Serrano.
It seems to be everyone against Ineos. So, everyone just looks at us, which makes it fairly difficult. Yeah, it was nice today. Load of proud Yorkshire people with their flags and stuff out. It was, cheering me on. Especially, it was nice. I mean, these are the best crowds we've had all week so far. I mean, granted, 2 days were raining cats and dogs, but best crowd so far in Yorkshire.
Yorkshire really enjoys, bike racing here. There's a lot of cyclists, out on the road, etc. And I hope that there is another race, that potentially comes. There's talks of a one-day race returning to Yorkshire, and I think that'd be great.
I think the appetite's still there. You only have to see how many people are actually coming in on the bikes today. The appetite is still definitely there, yeah.
Do you think face painting amongst adults might take off?
Why not? You've got to start a trend somewhere. I mean, somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, great eye makeup there. Gosh, it's a big turnout, isn't it? It reminds me of the days of the Tour de Yorkshire, eh? Finally this evening, a mixed martial arts fighter from South Yorkshire has spoken about how he's made it to the top of his sport. 29-year-old Mark Jacasey, known as Bone Crusher, grew up in Doncaster. He left the Democratic Republic of Congo as a child and arrived here speaking absolutely no English at all. Well, now he's inspiring young people all over the world with his incredible story. Have a look.
Get adrenaline, really. You don't feel pain when you're there. It's more of a fight or flight mode in front of millions watching. You're thinking, he's going to hurt me, I'm going to hurt him.
Come on, let's go. If you listen to Mark's story, he's an inspiration to the community, to other fighters, and everybody that comes through the door, that's who they look up to because that's who they want to be.
When you look at the humble beginnings of where he's come from, we've seen from the highest highs, been walking out of the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas to the lows of taking his first loss. It's been a real journey.
From Mark entering the country from the Democratic Republic of Congo at a young age, not being able to speak a word of English, to then years later walking out into the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas.
Mark's story, I think, is the story that really should be told.
Sorry. Some days you probably go without food, but if I didn't go through what I went through, I probably wouldn't be where I am. I remember being 12, just like, I got here speaking no English. I could tell people looking a bit strange. Doncaster is a mad town. Like, I've been here for, 18 years? I travel a lot, but it's like I'm always wanting to come back home, so this is home, Doncaster. So fighting got going when I was 18, after I actually left school. I did to try to keep out of trouble because I was getting into a lot of trouble just hanging out around people. The more they told me how good I was, the more I wanted to come back, and I kept coming.
So the sport is mixed martial arts, and it's called mixed martial arts because there is multiple martial arts disciplines that ultimately make one sport. You're unsure what the UFC is. The UFC is just a promotion of mixed martial arts.
To make it to UFC, you have to make a name for yourself. Actually, I was driving my car and my manager called me. He said, you've been signed. I thought he was joking, but yeah, it was real. I actually cried in my car. I get a lot of messages, a lot of fighters, especially back home, say like, we look up to you. I feel like by me just giving that out, that makes me feel better, like I'm giving something out now. It's not just about me no more. I try to laugh as much as possible. Well, I got nothing to complain about. I'm fine at UFC. I'm just grateful to have what I have and enjoy life.
You certainly won't mess with the Bone Crusher, would you? Paul's here now. Paul, hello. You're looking at Bone Crusher thinking, no, I won't mess with Bone Crusher.
I enjoyed that piece.
It was fantastic,
what were you going to say
wasn't it?
to me?
Yesterday I thought, right, autumn wardrobe, here we come, because it was feeling all chilly. And then today, it's like summer again, isn't it?
Well,
people are out there in the
temperatures are all relative, though. It's interesting, because somebody else said to me, oh, it was chilly yesterday, but temperatures reached 21 degrees and which is well above average for this time of the year. So we're coming off the back of what's been a very hot summer. And actually the mean temperatures so far in September are way above normal. 4 or 5 degrees above normal, so it's very warm actually.
So not time to get the woolies out yet?
Not just yet. Let me show you a few pictures which describe actually the weather situation we've got at the moment. That was taken yesterday, but it was a cloud burst in Kirkstall. Thanks for sending that in, Pete. They'll hope at the beer festival, which I think is at Kirkstall this weekend, that these showers will clear off. But then after a shower there in Addingham, it brightened up very nicely with the lovely shot there of a rainbow. And the other thing, we've had a number of thunderstorms, haven't we? Now, this picture that I'm sure will reach your screens any time now. There we are. That's Cowling near Keighley. And you can see a really, really big cumulonimbus on the right of your screen, and then that bolt of lightning very close to the Pennine Way, actually. And as we speak, there's a number of thunderstorms. So there's the addresses if you want to get your pictures on the television. So the headline for tomorrow is a familiar one. We'll get off to a cloudy, damp start with some overnight showers to clear. It brightens up, but a fair number of showers and local thunderstorms breaking out again. Eventually, this low pressure will fill and move into the continent, and a bit of a build of pressure over the weekend means things will settle down, albeit temporarily. Now you can see on the satellite picture the clumps of cloud that have been developing over the Midlands there, pushing northwards, and we have got two areas of thunderstorms, one in the Otley area moving northwards. We've got some to the east of York, but they'll clear away northwards in the next couple of hours, and then later tonight we'll see showers pushing into eastern parts of Yorkshire. Lowest temperatures around 11 or 12 degrees. So tomorrow's high water times: Farley at 3:09 and Bridlington at 3:24. So we're off to a cloudy, damp start in the morning. Some overnight thundery showers to move away northwards. But just look what happens once we see some brightness. A fair rash of showers breaking out, some of which could be heavy with risk of thunder. But just like today, some of you may well miss them altogether. And despite the showers, temperatures still a bit above average. 20 degrees Celsius in York is 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So for Friday, it's more of the same with showers breaking out. There's a hint after a slow start on Saturday with low cloud, mist and drizzle. It should brighten up. Sunday not looking too bad. We're back to the potential for rain early next week, and that is the forecast.
Thank you very much. Well, tomorrow we are expecting more details on Liz Truss of how she is expecting to help people through the energy crisis. Steve has been in touch on social media. He says, freeze the price cap, help everyone, not just a few, get through this energy catastrophe. Mark says he wants to hear more about levelling up. Sean says we want cheaper heating and cheaper eating. Fiona says she wants a general election. Goodness me, Fiona, give us a few weeks on that one, will you? That's it from us. Keely here with Lede News. Bye-bye for now.